The smell of burnt metal and old fuel hung in the air. Captain Jack Miller pulled his worn jacket tighter as he walked through the vast orbital scrapyard. Broken ships and discarded parts floated around him, held in place by weak gravity fields. This far from Earth, on the edge of human space, people threw away things that still had value. Jack had a gift for seeing that value. "Find anything good yet?" asked the voice in his earpiece. "Not yet, Ellie," Jack replied. "Just the usual junk." Ellie Reed had been his friend for 10 years. She was the best mechanic in this part of space, and the only person who still believed in him after the Alliance kicked him out. "Don't waste too much time there," she said. "Pete charges by the hour just to breathe his recycled air." Jack smiled. "I know, but I've got a feeling about today." He'd been a top pilot for the Alliance military until 6 months ago. His commander had ordered him to bomb a settlement with civilians. Jack had refused. They called it insubordination. He called it having a conscience. Now he hauled cargo in a small, failing ship, dreaming of something better. As Jack reached the far end of the scrapyard, something caught his eye. Half buried under other junk was the nose of a ship unlike any he'd seen before. Its lines were smooth, almost like it was made from one piece of metal. Even covered in dust and damage, it seemed to pull at him. "Pete," Jack called out. "What's that ship in the back corner?" Pete was an old spacer with one real arm and one mechanical one. He squinted in the direction Jack pointed. "That piece of junk. Been here 15 years. 3 different buyers tried to make it work. Weird systems, nothing fits right. More trouble than it's worth." "How much?" Jack asked. Pete laughed. "For you. 500 credits. I'll be happy to clear the space." 500 credits was almost all the money Jack had left. But something told him this was important. "Deal," he said. Pete's eyebrows shot up. "Really? Well, your funeral. It's yours. Good luck moving it." "You spent all our credits on this." Ellie stood with her hands on her hips, staring at the ship Jack had towed to her repair dock. The ship was bigger than it had looked in the yard. About 60 meters long, with a sleek hull that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Parts of it were badly damaged, with holes showing strange technology inside. "I know it looks bad," Jack said, "but there's something special about it. I can feel it." Ellie walked around the ship, running her scanner over its surface. Her angry expression slowly changed to confusion. "This doesn't make sense," she said. "The scanner can't identify the metal. And look at this." She pointed to a damaged section. Tiny pinpoints of light were moving inside the torn metal. "What is that?" Jack asked. "I have no idea. But it looks like it's repairing itself." They watched in amazement as the microscopic lights moved along the damaged area, the torn metal slowly closing like a healing wound. "That's impossible," Jack whispered. "Clearly not," Ellie replied. "Jack, what did you buy?" For 3 days, they cleaned the ship, removing years of space dust and debris. The self-repair continued, but only in small areas. The ship still had major damage. On the 4th day, Jack found what looked like a control room. The panels were dark, with no obvious way to turn them on. "Any idea how to start this thing?" he asked Ellie. She shook her head. "None of the tools connect to it. It's like trying to talk to a rock." Jack ran his hand along what seemed to be the main panel. The edge was sharp, and he pulled back with a hiss of pain. A drop of his blood fell onto the dark surface. The ship came alive. Lights flickered across all panels. A low hum filled the air. Jack and Ellie stepped back as a holographic display appeared above the central console. Strange symbols flashed in the air, then rearranged themselves into words they could read. "Pilot GENTSC compatibility so enfirearmed. For I may ROE so I stems and an IT-18. Well CO men a bo or DTASC indent." "It responded to your blood," Ellie said in shock. The hologram expanded, showing a 3D image of the ship, the Ascendant, with many areas highlighted in red, showing damage. "Hello," Jack called out. "Can you hear us?" The hologram shifted again, forming a simple, glowing orb. "I can hear you," said a calm, neutral voice. "I am the navigation and command interface, but you may call me Nav. The Ascendant has been inactive for 47 of your years. I detect significant damage to all major systems." Jack looked at Ellie, who seemed as stunned as he felt. What are you?" Jack asked. "I am the operational intelligence of this vessel, created by the Founders to pilot the most advanced warship in known space." "Founders? Who are they?" "Human," Ellie asked. "No. The Founders evolved beyond your current understanding approximately 3,000 years ago. They created the Ascendant as their final defense against the swarm." Jack moved closer to the hologram. "Why did you respond to my blood?" The orb pulsed gently. "The Ascendant was designed to recognize compatible genetic patterns. You possess neural pathways that can interface with the ship's systems. In simple terms, Captain Miller, you are the key that starts the engine." Jack felt a chill run down his spine. "How do you know my name?" "When your blood made contact, I accessed basic genetic memory. I know you are Jack Miller, former Alliance pilot. I know you refuse to follow orders that would harm innocents. This makes you genetically and psychologically compatible." Ellie grabbed Jack's arm. "This is getting weird. Maybe we should call someone." "No," Jack said quickly. "No authorities." "Not yet." He turned back to Nav. "You said this is a warship. What can it do?" "At full capacity, the Ascendant can phase through solid matter, manipulate gravity, travel faster than your current understanding of physics allows, and deploy weapons that target molecular bonds." Jack's eyes widened. "And it's mine now." "Just like that?" "Simplistically, yes. The bond has begun. However, full functionality is impossible in the ship's current state. Critical components were removed before the Ascendant was abandoned." "Can we find these components?" Jack asked. "Yes. I have their coordinates. With each component we retrieve, more systems will come online." Ellie was examining the holographic display of the damaged areas. "This ship is beyond anything humans have built. If the military finds out about this..." A loud bang interrupted her as the dock's outer door was forced open. Through the ship's viewports, they could see armed figures in Alliance uniforms entering the dock. "Captain Miller," a voice boomed over a loudspeaker. "This is Commander Wilson of Alliance Military Intelligence. Exit the vessel immediately. That ship is now property of the Alliance." Jack turned to Nav. "Can we fly?" "Now." The orb flickered. "Basic propulsion is functional, but defense systems are at 12% capacity." "That's not what I asked," Jack said, sliding into what seemed to be the pilot's seat. "Can we fly?" "Yes, Captain. We can fly." As Alliance troops surrounded the ship, Jack felt something strange, a tingling sensation at the base of his skull. Suddenly, he could feel the ship around him, like it was an extension of his body. "What's happening?" he whispered. "The neural interface is initiating," Nav replied. "Your connection to the Ascendant has begun." Jack smiled for the first time in months. "Then let's show them what a piece of junk can do." The Ascendant rose from the repair dock as Alliance soldiers fired warning shots. Jack felt strange. He wasn't pressing buttons or pulling levers. He just thought about moving, and the ship responded. "This is amazing," he whispered. Ellie held onto a wall support. "That's great, but can you get us away from the people shooting at us?" The dock's massive doors were closed, designed to keep ships in until proper launch clearance was given. "Nav, can we break through those doors?" Jack asked. "Negative. Hull integrity is at 43%. Impact would cause major damage." Commander Wilson's voice came through their comms again. "This is your final warning. Miller, power down now." Jack closed his eyes, trying to feel the ship better through the growing mental link. "There has to be another way out." "There is," Nav replied. Emergency phase shifting is available for 3 seconds at current power levels. Phase shifting. You mean we can pass through solid objects? Correct. Jack looked at Ellie. Hold on tight. We're about to do something impossible. He focused his thoughts and felt the ship respond. A strange vibration ran through the vessel, and the view outside the windows blurred. The solid metal doors ahead now looked almost transparent. Engaging phase shift, Nav announced. The Ascendant surged forward. For a brief, stomach-turning moment, they passed through the solid doors as if they were made of fog. Then they were in open space, the station falling behind them. Ellie's eyes were wide. We just went through a solid door. Power reserves at critical levels, Nav reported. All non-essential systems shutting down. Phase shifting unavailable for 72 hours. Jack could feel the ship's weakened state through their connection. We need a place to hide while the ship recharges. The asteroid belt near the gas giant would provide cover, Nav suggested, showing a map on the holographic display. Then that's where we're going, Jack said, directing the ship with his thoughts. They spent 3 days hidden in the asteroid belt. During this time, Nav explained more about the Ascendant and its creators. The founders built me as their final achievement before they evolved beyond physical form, Nav told them as they sat in the control room. You mean they died? Ellie asked. No. They transcended. They became energy and consciousness without bodies. Jack ran his hand along the smooth wall of the ship, and they built you to fight something called the Swarm. What was that? Nav's holographic orb dimmed slightly. The Swarm was not their enemy as you understand it. The Swarm was what some of them became, a different path of evolution. Jack and Ellie exchanged confused looks. I don't understand, Jack said. It is difficult to explain in your terms. Some founders chose to become a collective intelligence that consumed matter to grow. Others believed in preserving diversity of form. The Ascendant was created to communicate with the Swarm, and if necessary, to fight it. Ellie had been studying the ship's schematics on a holographic display. These systems are incredible. Self-repairing hull, energy shields, weapons I can't even understand. But many parts are missing. Nav projected a new hologram showing the galaxy with 5 points of light. These are the locations of the missing components. The nearest is a quantum communication array on a mining colony at the edge of human space. Jack studied the map. That's Colony 7, in the outer reach. It's a rough place, but I've been there before. The array will allow me to access stellar databases and enhance our communication capabilities, Nav explained. Without it, we cannot locate the other components efficiently. How did these components get scattered around the galaxy? Ellie asked. When the Ascendant was abandoned, salvagers removed key components before the ship's defense systems activated and prevented further stripping. The salvagers sold these components to various collectors and researchers. Jack stood up. Well, if we want to unlock this ship's full potential, we need to start collecting them. Nav set a course for Colony 7. As they approached Colony 7, they saw something unexpected. An Alliance cruiser in orbit around the mining planet. That's Wilson's ship, the Relentless, Jack said, recognizing the vessel. How did they find us so quickly? They must have guessed where we were heading, Ellie suggested. Nav's orb pulsed with new information. I detect communications about a unique technological artifact recently acquired by a research facility on the surface. It matches the signature of the quantum array. Jack felt the neural link with the ship growing stronger. He could sense the Ascendant systems more clearly now, including dormant weapons that were slowly coming online. We need to go down there before they secure the component, he said. Nav, can we avoid their detection? Yes. The Ascendant can absorb sensor scans at current power levels. We will appear as background radiation. They slipped past the Alliance cruiser and entered the planet's atmosphere, landing in a remote area 5 kilometers from the main colony. I should go alone, Jack said, putting on his jacket. I'll attract less attention. Ellie crossed her arms. With your face probably on every security feed. I don't think so. We go together. Jack knew better than to argue. Fine. Nav, can you keep the ship hidden while we're gone? Yes, Captain. But be aware that the neural link has limitations at this distance. Beyond 3 kilometers, you will feel discomfort. Noted. Let's move. Colony 7 was a dusty collection of prefab buildings and makeshift structures, filled with miners, traders, and people looking to disappear. Jack and Ellie kept their heads down as they made their way through the crowded streets. The research facility should be on the north side, Ellie said, checking a small scanner. That's where the energy signature is coming from. As they turned a corner, Jack felt a sharp pain in his head. The neural link was warning him of danger. Up ahead, he saw Alliance soldiers questioning locals, showing pictures, likely of him and Ellie. We need another route, he whispered, pulling Ellie into a side alley. A voice spoke from the shadows. You look like people who need to avoid official attention. A man stepped forward, tall, with gray hair, and the weathered face of someone who had spent too much time under alien suns. He wore the uniform of a mining company, but the insignia was old and faded. Name's Tom, the man said, and I know what you're looking for. Jack tensed, ready to run. What do you mean? Tom smiled. The artifact from the Founders. I've been studying their star maps for 20 years. I recognized the energy signature when it arrived last month. How do you know about the Founders? Ellie asked suspiciously. Let's just say I've had my own encounters with their technology. Tom glanced at the Alliance soldiers down the street. And I'm guessing that fancy ship you came in is more of the same. We should talk, but not here. Jack felt the neural link buzz with what seemed like approval from Nav. Against his better judgment, he nodded. Lead the way, he said. But no tricks. Tom's eyes crinkled with amusement. No tricks. Just answers about what you've gotten yourself into, and why the Alliance is so desperate to take it from you. As they followed Tom through the back alleys of Colony 7, Jack felt the weight of the Ascendant's potential in his mind. This was just the beginning of something much bigger than a salvaged ship, something that might change the fate of humanity among the stars. Tom led Jack and Ellie through narrow back streets to a small building at the edge of the colony. Inside, the walls were covered with star charts and strange symbols. Welcome to my humble research station, Tom said. I've been studying the Founders for most of my life. Jack looked at the charts. You know a lot about them. More than anyone else in human space. Tom pointed to a faded image that looked like the Ascendant. That ship you found wasn't meant to be discarded. It was waiting. Waiting for what? Ellie asked. For the right pilot. Tom looked at Jack. The neural link only forms with certain people. The Founders believed in something they called the bridge mind. Someone who could understand both individual thought and collective consciousness. Jack felt uncomfortable. I'm just a pilot who got kicked out of the Alliance. Tom smiled. Maybe that's exactly what makes you right for the job. He walked to a hidden panel in the wall and opened it, revealing a glowing blue cube about the size of his hand. This is what you're looking for. The quantum communication array. Ellie stepped forward. You have it. But the research facility was a diversion I set up when I heard Alliance ships were coming. I've had this for years. Could never make it work, though. Tom held out the cube to Jack. But I think you can. Jack carefully took the cube. The moment his fingers touched it, blue light raced up his arms in glowing lines, and the neural link in his mind buzzed with new information. The array is recognizing you, Tom said. Take it back to your ship. You'll need it for what's coming. What is coming? Jack asked. Tom's face darkened. The swarm. It's not just ancient history. I've tracked unusual readings from the outer systems. Something is consuming entire planets, but quietly, slowly. The Alliance doesn't believe me. That's why I left their science division. A loud explosion outside interrupted them. Through the window, they saw Alliance soldiers moving through the streets. Commander Wilson, Jack muttered. He's persistent. There's a back way out, Tom said, moving to another hidden door. It leads to the old mining tunnels. You can circle back to your ship. As they prepared to leave, the door burst open. A young Alliance officer stood there, weapon raised. Jack recognized the rank insignia of a lieutenant. "Don't move," the officer ordered. Tom stepped forward. "Adams, don't do this." The officer, Adams, looked conflicted. "Dr. Davis, you know I have orders." "Your commander doesn't understand what's at stake," Tom replied calmly. Adams lowered his weapon slightly. "Commander Wilson believes this technology could win the Cold War with the Arcturus Federation. It's not meant for human wars," Jack said. "It was built to face something much worse." Adams hesitated, then lowered his weapon completely. "The commander is wrong about a lot of things. He wants to take the technology by force and won't listen to reason." He looked at the glowing cube in Jack's hand. "Is that it? The component?" Jack nodded cautiously. "Wilson will be here in 2 minutes with the rest of the team. Take the tunnels. I'll tell them you went north." Ellie stared at him. "Why are you helping us?" "Because I've seen Tom's research. If he believes in you, that's good enough for me." Adams looked at Jack. "Just promise this technology won't be used against other humans." "I promise," Jack said. Tom handed Adams a small data chip. "Give this to Wilson after they're gone. It contains some of my research on the swarm. Maybe it will make him understand." Adams took the chip and moved aside. "Go. Now." They ran through the dark mining tunnels, guided by Tom's directions. Jack could feel the neural link getting stronger as they approached the Ascendant. The cube in his hand pulsed with blue light. When they finally reached the ship, Nad's holographic orb appeared brighter than before. "You have recovered the quantum array," Nav said. "We must install it immediately." Jack handed the cube to Ellie, who examined it carefully. "Where does it go?" Nav projected a hologram showing an empty compartment beneath the main console. "There. The ship will do the rest." Ellie placed the cube in the compartment. The moment it touched the ship's systems, the Ascendant hummed with new energy. The lights grew brighter, and Jack felt the neural link expand in his mind. Suddenly, he could see not just the ship, but the space around them, as if the Ascendant's sensors were now part of his own senses. "Whoa," he gasped, steadying himself against the wall. "The quantum array is integrating with the ship's systems," Nav announced. "Captain, you now have enhanced spatial awareness through the neural link." "I can feel it," Jack said. "It's like I can see in all directions at once." Ellie checked the ship's displays. "Power levels are climbing. We're up to 35% capacity." A warning flashed in Jack's mind. "Alliance ships are approaching. Wilson must have figured out we tricked him." Through the neural link, Jack could see 3 Alliance fighters racing toward their position, with the cruiser Relentless not far behind. "We need to get out of here," Ellie said. Jack sat in the pilot's seat, feeling the ship connect even more deeply with his mind. "Nav, can we outrun them?" "With the quantum array installed, yes. We now have access to improved propulsion systems." "Then let's go." The Ascendant rose from the surface, far faster than before. The Alliance fighters opened fire, but Jack could sense the incoming shots through the neural link and moved the ship with just his thoughts, dodging them easily. "This is incredible," he said, as the Ascendant twisted and turned through the planet's atmosphere. The ship broke free into space, with the fighters in pursuit. Ahead loomed the massive Relentless, its weapons charging. "Captain," Nav said, "we have weapons capability at 40%. Shall I target the Alliance vessels?" Jack thought about it. These were fellow humans, even if they were trying to capture him. "No, we disable, not destroy." Using the enhanced neural link, Jack directed precise shots that damaged the fighter's propulsion systems without harming the pilots. The ship spun away, unable to pursue. The Relentless fired its main cannons. Jack saw the energy blasts coming through the neural link and dived the Ascendant between them. "Nav, where to next?" he asked as they raced away from the cruiser. With the quantum array, I can now detect the next component more clearly. It is located on a frontier world called Helios. The component is a gravitic manipulator. Set course for Helios, Jack ordered. As the Ascendant prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Commander Wilson's voice came through on an open channel. This isn't over, Miller. That technology belongs to humanity, not just to you. Jack activated the comm system. I'm not keeping it from humanity, Commander. I'm trying to save humanity. Check Tom Davis's research. The swarm is real. Before Wilson could respond, the Ascendant jumped, the stars streaking into lines around them as they headed toward their next destination, and the next piece of the puzzle. The Ascendant emerged from faster-than-light travel near Helios, a frontier world with orange clouds and 3 small moons. Jack felt the ship's excitement through their neural link, a strange sensation, as if the vessel itself was eager to be whole again. The gravitic manipulator is located in an abandoned research station on the largest moon, Nav informed them, showing a holographic map. Ellie studied the image. That station was shut down 5 years ago. Some kind of accident. Jack guided the ship toward the moon, using his mind more than the controls. With each hour, the neural connection grew stronger. Sometimes he wasn't sure where his thoughts ended and the ship's systems began. Nav, any sign of Alliance ships? He asked. Negative, Captain. But I am detecting unusual energy readings from the research station. The gravitic manipulator appears to be active. They landed near the station, a gray complex of domes and towers, now dusty and silent. Jack and Ellie put on lightweight spacesuits, as the moon had only a thin atmosphere. Stay alert, Jack said as they approached the main entrance. If the component is active, someone might be using it. The doors slid open with a hiss. Inside, emergency lights cast long shadows across empty corridors. Their footsteps echoed as they moved deeper into the station. This place gives me the creeps, Ellie muttered. Jack felt something strange through the neural link, a pull toward the center of the complex. The component is calling to me. This way. They followed the pull to a large circular room filled with abandoned equipment. In the center, floating a few inches above a pedestal, was a silver sphere about the size of a basketball. It pulsed with inner light and seemed to bend the space around it. That's it, Jack said. The gravitic manipulator. As they approached, the sphere pulsed brighter. Small objects around the room, tools, papers, dust, began to float upward. Be careful, Ellie warned. It's affecting the gravity. The voice spoke from the shadows. Impressive, isn't it? Jack and Ellie spun around. A woman stepped into the light, wearing a dark blue uniform with silver rank pins, the uniform of the Arcturus Federation. Behind her stood 4 armed soldiers. Admiral Blake, Jack said, recognizing the leader of the Federation's space forces from news reports. The Admiral nodded. And your Captain Miller, the Alliance deserter who stole a very special ship. She gestured to the floating sphere, a ship that needs this to reach its full potential. Jack moved protectively toward the component. How did you know about this? We've been tracking unusual technology for years. The founders left traces across many worlds. Blake studied Jack with interest. The neural link has formed with you. That's rare. Most people who try end up brain damaged or dead. What do you want? Ellie asked sharply. The same thing you want, to stop the swarm. Blake's face grew serious. We've lost 2 outposts already. Entire colonies gone silent. When we investigate, we find nothing but empty buildings and stripped planets. Jack felt a chill. Tom's warnings hadn't been exaggerated. The Alliance doesn't believe the threat is real, he said. The Alliance is focused on us as the enemy, Blake replied. They think we're behind the disappearances. A new voice joined the conversation. That's not entirely accurate. Lieutenant Adams stepped from another doorway, his Alliance uniform dusty from travel. Lieutenant, Jack said in surprise. Adams nodded. I followed you. After reading Davis's research, I had to know more. He looked at Admiral Blake without fear. And Commander Wilson now believes the swarm is real, but he thinks the best response is to develop weapons from Founder technology to use against both the swarm and the Federation. Blake frowned. A typical Alliance response. More weapons, more destruction. And what's your solution? Jack asked her. Cooperation. Blake gestured to the gravitic manipulator. I'll help you collect the remaining components. In exchange, you share the defensive technology with both human factions. The swarm is the real enemy, not each other. Jack felt the neural link buzz with what seemed like approval from the Ascendant. He looked at Ellie, who nodded slightly. Agreed, he said. But the ship stays with me. I'm the only one who can pilot it effectively. That's acceptable, Blake said, extending her hand. As Jack shook it, an alarm sounded through the station. Nab's voice came through Jack's communicator. Captain, multiple ships have entered orbit. Alliance signatures detected. Adams checked his own device. It's Wilson. He must have tracked me. Blake turned to her soldiers. Get back to our ship. Prepare for emergency departure. Jack approached the gravitic manipulator. As his hands neared it, the sphere pulsed brighter, and thin lines of silver light ran up his arms, connecting with the neural link. The sphere floated toward him, as if drawn by his very presence. How do we get this back to the Ascendant? Ellie asked urgently. Before Jack could answer, the ceiling exploded. Alliance troops rappelled down on cables, with Commander Wilson leading them. Secure that artifact, Wilson shouted, pointing at the sphere. Jack grabbed the manipulator. The moment his hands closed around it, the neural link flared with power. Gravity in the room went wild. Alliance soldiers floated upward, weapons flying from their hands. Wilson remained anchored by his cable, face red with anger. Federation interference. I knew it, he yelled, spotting Admiral Blake. This is an act of war. No, it's an act of survival, Blake shouted back. Adams stepped between them. Commander, please. The swarm is the real threat. We need to work together. Wilson's face hardened. You're a traitor, Adams. I'm trying to save lives, Adams replied. Jack concentrated on the gravitic manipulator, feeling its power flow through the neural link. With a thought, he created a corridor of normal gravity leading to the exit. This way. He called to Ellie, Blake, and Adams. They ran through the corridor while chaos swirled around them. Soldiers floating helplessly, equipment crashing into walls. Wilson fired his sidearm, but the bullet curved away in the distorted gravity. When they reached the Ascendant, Jack placed the gravitic manipulator in the compartment Nav indicated. The ship hummed with new energy as the component integrated with its systems. Power at 65%, Nav announced. Gravitic systems online. We need to leave, Blake said. My ship will follow you. Adams looked uncertain. I can't go back to the Alliance now. Then come with us, Jack offered. The lieutenant nodded gratefully. Through the viewports, they could see Alliance ships descending toward the research station. Jack sat in the pilot's chair, feeling the enhanced neural link provide unprecedented control. Let's show them what this ship can really do, he said with a smile. The Ascendant rose smoothly, then accelerated at impossible speed, creating a gravity bubble that protected them from the forces that should have crushed them. Alliance ships tried to pursue but couldn't match their velocity. As they broke free of the moon's gravity, Nav displayed a new course. The next component is a consciousness matrix, located on a jungle world called Verdant. With it, your neural link will expand to its full potential. And after that, Jack asked. The final component is the energy core, the heart of the Ascendant. It lies in Arcturus Federation space. Blake nodded. My people will help you retrieve it. Jack looked at his growing crew, Ellie, Adams, and now an alliance with Admiral Blake. The ship that everyone had called junk was becoming exactly what its creators intended. the most advanced warship ever built, and they would need every bit of that power for what lay ahead. "Set course for Verdant," he ordered. "Let's complete this puzzle before the swarm arrives." The jungle world of Verdant lived up to its name. Massive trees with blue-green leaves stretched toward the twin suns. Strange animals called from the dense underbrush as Jack, Ellie, and Adams made their way toward an ancient structure hidden in the jungle. "According to Nav, the consciousness matrix is inside that temple," Jack said, pointing to stone walls covered with vines and symbols similar to those in Tom's research. The neural link had grown stronger with each component. Now Jack could feel not just the ship, but also echoes of the founders who had created it. Sometimes he dreamed their memories. Glimpses of beings evolving beyond physical form. "The building looks thousands of years old," Adams observed. Ellie scanned the structure, but the energy signature inside is very much active. They approached the entrance, a tall doorway carved with spiral patterns. As Jack neared it, the patterns began to glow with soft blue light. "It's responding to the neural link," he said. Inside, the temple was a single circular chamber. Sunlight filtered through holes in the ceiling, illuminating a pedestal in the center. Floating above it was a crystalline object shaped like a human brain, pulsing with inner light. "The consciousness matrix," Jack whispered. As he approached, the crystal brain spun faster. Images flashed in Jack's mind. Stars exploding, civilizations rising and falling, the founders becoming pure energy, and the swarm spreading across worlds. Jack reached out. The moment his fingers touched the crystal, his consciousness expanded dramatically. He saw beyond the temple, beyond the planet. He could feel the ascendant in orbit, Nav's presence, Ellie and Adams beside him, and something vast approaching from the edge of human space. "Jack." Ellie's voice seemed to come from far away. "Are you okay?" He blinked, returning to himself. The crystal brain was now in his hands, connected to him by threads of light. "I can see it," he said, his voice shaking. "The swarm. It's closer than we thought. It's already reached the outer colonies." Adams looked alarmed. "How long do we have?" "Days, not weeks." Jack carefully carried the consciousness matrix toward the exit. "We need to get the final component now." The Ascendant raced toward Arcturus Federation space with Admiral Blake's ship escorting them. When Jack installed the consciousness matrix, the neural link became something more, a true melding of mind and machine. He could access the ship's systems as easily as his own thoughts. "Power at 85%, Nav reported. "All systems except primary energy core now online." Ellie studied the ship's improved displays. "This isn't just a warship. It's like a bridge between different forms of existence." "That's exactly what it is," Jack said. "The founders didn't just want to fight the swarm. They wanted to communicate with it, to reach an understanding." Adams frowned. "Communicate with something that consumes entire worlds." "The swarm doesn't see individual lives the way we do," Jack explained, understanding flowing through the enhanced neural link. "It perceives patterns and energy. When it consumes a planet, it thinks it's preserving its information, not destroying it." Their discussion was interrupted by an urgent message from Admiral Blake. "Captain Miller, we have a problem. Alliance forces have been detected near the location of the energy core. Wilson must have figured out our plan." Jack checked the sensors through the neural link. "I can see them. 3 destroyers and the Relentless. They're surrounding a small moon. That must be where the core is." Blake's face was grim on the view screen. "This could turn into a battle between our forces, exactly what we don't need with the swarm approaching." Jack thought for a moment. "I have an idea. Let me speak to Wilson." Commander Wilson's face appeared on the communication screen, his expression hard. "Captain Miller, or should I say, Trader Miller." "Commander, we don't have time for this," Jack said firmly. "The swarm is real, and it's almost here. We need to work together." Wilson scoffed. "Work with Federation forces? Never. That ship belongs to the Alliance. This ship doesn't belong to anyone. It was built to save all life, not just one faction. Jack took a deep breath. I'm sending you data from the consciousness matrix. It shows the swarm's approach. Verify it yourself. Wilson was silent as he reviewed the information. His face paled. This can't be right. An entire sector gone. It's right, and Earth is next unless we complete the Ascendant and face the swarm together. A new voice joined the conversation. He's telling the truth, Commander. It was Lieutenant Adams. Adams? I should have you court-martialed, Wilson growled. Sir, with respect, there won't be courts or alliances or federations if the swarm reaches the core worlds. I've seen what Captain Miller has seen. This is bigger than our conflicts. Wilson was silent for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. What do you need from us? With both Alliance and Federation ships providing protection, Jack led a team to the small moon where the energy core was kept. The final component was a sphere of pure energy contained in a field of force. When Jack approached it, the sphere pulsed with recognition. This is it, he said, the heart of the Ascendant. As he reached for the core, the neural link flared with warning. At the edge of the system, sensors detected a silver cloud approaching, the leading edge of the swarm. We're out of time, Ellie said, looking at her scanner. The swarm is here. Jack grabbed the energy core. Power surged through the neural link, almost overwhelming him. The core rose from its containment field and followed him like a loyal pet as they raced back to the Ascendant. When the core was installed, the ship transformed. The hull shimmered, damage disappearing as the self-repair systems worked at full capacity. The inside reconfigured, becoming more organic, more alive. Power at 100%, Nav announced. All systems online. The Ascendant is complete. Through the viewports and sensors, they could see the swarm approaching, a vast cloud of silver particles that consumed everything in its path. Alliance and Federation ships fired weapons, but the beams passed through the cloud without effect. Normal weapons can't hurt it, Jack said, settling into the pilot's chair. But the Ascendant wasn't built just to fight. He closed his eyes, letting the neural link fully engage. The consciousness matrix allowed him to extend his mind toward the swarm, attempting to communicate. In that connection, Jack sensed the vast alien intelligence, a collective mind that saw the universe as patterns to be absorbed and preserved. It didn't understand that separate lives had value, that diversity created strength. Drawing on the memories embedded in the ship and his own human perspective, Jack showed the swarm another way. Symbiosis instead of consumption, cooperation instead of absorption. He demonstrated how separate parts created more complex patterns than uniform assimilation. The swarm paused, billions of microscopic machines halting their advance as the collective considered this new paradigm. Jack opened his eyes, his body shaking from the effort. It's working, he whispered. They're listening. Around them, Alliance and Federation ships watched in awe as the silver cloud began to reshape itself, forming complex geometric patterns in space. What's happening? Wilson asked over the comm. Evolution, Jack replied. They're changing. The swarm continued to transform, still consuming matter but now leaving living systems intact, taking only what could be spared. In some places, it even returned processed materials in new forms, technologies beyond human understanding. 1 month later, Jack stood on the bridge of the Ascendant, looking out at Earth shining blue and green below. The ship that had once been called junk was now recognized as the most advanced vessel humans had ever encountered, and the bridge between humanity and the cosmos beyond. Ellie joined him at the viewport. So what now, Captain? The Alliance wants you back. The Federation wants to make you an admiral. Jack smiled. I think the Ascendant and I still have work to do. There's a lot of universe out there, and we've only just started to understand it. As they plotted a course to the stars, Jack felt the ship's satisfaction through their neural link. The Ascendant had found its purpose, just as he had found his. From a piece of junk to humanity's greatest achievement, their journey was just beginning.